going to be a competition of ideas, and we know that's not going to prevail. What's going to prevail is common sense. What's going to prevail, choosing this country over, part of the extreme in our party. What's going to prevail is common sense, and I do believe, for me, in the kinds of chaos that we have in this Trump administration, we should respond with order and logic and patriotism, and not shutting down our government right now. And that's where I'm at. And I don't know why that's controversial. That's not a big tent party. If you're not allowed to have the opinion that it's wrong to shut our government down and put these people in the middle of it and now referred to as you're a traitor, or, saying all these other kinds of labels.
All right, Jim. Well, he's kind of been with the Republicans the whole way, hasn't he?
On the shutdown. Yeah. I think what's interesting about this is that I'm he's a Democrat. Do I want a Democrat to get reelected? I'd like to see a more conservative Democrat come out of Pennsylvania. That said, so I just want to lay that groundwork and make this point. If Republicans have two jobs in the November elections. One, to keep the House and the Senate, and so that we can keep the Trump agenda going forward. The second thing they need to do is to prove at the election ballot exactly what John Fetterman just said. If you would like to destroy socialism and communism that is rising up in the un-American Democrat Party, then you want to make real what John Fetterman just said. Not for his sake, but for the sake of the idea. Listen, Democrats did lose big because of socialism and communism and all this radical leftist stuff last year. But Donald Trump won big and Republicans won big, maybe more significantly because of all the lawfare that came against Donald Trump and Donald Trump's promises to clean up what's going on in government. It may not have been entirely all about reductions in spending, although I think that was a pretty big thing. I think people are sick and tired of how the government operates, and they want that changed. So that's why what I'm going to say is if Republicans do not codify the Trump agenda this next year through legislation, whether they do it with or without the filibuster, and if the filibuster keeps them from doing it, they need to make the serious effort so that the American people can see what Republicans will do. Republicans are great at grabbing defeat out of the jaws of victory. I think one thing that points to their continued effort in that direction is that they put this hemp thing on the bill. And listen, whatever the argument you have is about hemp and legalization of marijuana, hemp's not marijuana. So why did we even deal with that? Like it's a product that's over the counter safe. You can argue effectiveness or whatever. I mean, if you're going to have that argument, then let's just talk about nutritional supplements all across the board, not just hemp. The only reason the hemp thing comes up is this scary. And we want to make people feel like that we're dealing with drugs. Listen, stop it. Stop it, Republicans. That is like the least important focus for anything we do. You should be putting all of that crap aside for now and slashing the federal budget, which you can do in reconciliation yet. You need to change the tax structure. You need to get rid of stupid tax things. You only did a little bit of that in this last reconciliation bill, the big, beautiful bill. Go all the way because American people want government off their backs. And they want you, stupid people in Washington, D.C., to stop acting like stupid people in Washington, D.C. If you can't get that message, Democrats are going to win big in November. And I think Donald Trump's going to do his part in all this. But Republicans in Congress have to. They stood firm in the shutdown, and I think that was a good thing, and I think they net won that battle. But they're not going to be able to take that victory forward if they don't get aggressive in their legislative agenda moving forward. And they need to thumb their noses at Democrats with a reconciliation bill, tell them to go screw themselves, this is what we're going to do, and make the major cuts. If they're not willing to do that, then they're going to lose it all. Gen Z voted for Donald Trump because he was going to be a disruptor and change it all around. They're departing from him right now because their perception is that that's not actually going to happen. So there's your charge, Republicans. Let's see if you'll do it or not.
Well, yeah, and another thing that they're getting, some heat for, not all Republicans, but this list right here, which there's some good people in this list, but they're trying, I guess, I don't know if this was actually put in the final bill, but all the senators who were, had their phones wiretapped in the Arctic frost investigation supposedly slipped in something where it guarantees them $500,000 once the DOJ settles the lawsuit from the taxpayers.
Yeah. One of the things that's really problematic with this, let's just be real. The Arctic frost thing is a scam. Everyone who was involved with Arctic frost needs to go to jail. That's what this is. The wiretapping and the search of their phone records really did happen. Jack Smith should go to jail for this. This is a violation of law that in his criminal behavior. That said, if you're going to push something through so you can get a monetary benefit from the taxpayers, however worthy you think you are of that, this is the stupidest idea that ever came up. It looks scammy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you can argue that you have a right to it. And there probably is an argument for these guys getting treated so poorly. But you're in government service, dude. Welcome to the political game. What your job is now is not to get your $500,000 payday or more. Your job is to make every one of the people who did this go to jail. And if you're not participating in that effort, then the American people are going to reject everything you're talking about. Yeah, it was a stupid idea.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have Dr. Oz on CNBC talking about cost of care, the cost of healthcare, and how they're going to try to bring it down. Here's that.
So we've got to find a way of actually bringing the real costs down, not just throwing money at it to reduce what consumers pay, but actually bringing down total cost of care. And if you're going to drop drug prices meaningfully, you'll do that. But in particular, in this category, because of all the things we can do, Joe, reducing obesity in America not only buys us a lot of health, but it also reduces the healthcare spend. We estimate that obesity by itself probably explains a quarter of the total healthcare costs. So we've got to find a way.
Yeah, we definitely need to fix somehow the obesity. I don't know if GLP-1, everyone getting on GLP-1s is going to be a permanent solution to that. I think we somehow need to fix the food, regulate what is being put in all this food that's in the grocery stores.
Well, listen, I'm all for the reduction of costs in drugs. Donald Trump is absolutely right that that we've been taken advantage of. And the pharmaceutical companies have been behind it. And he is right to take them on and to urge them to do everything that he's doing. I have a real problem with these GLP-1s. By the way, not that they should never be prescribed or available, but they probably should only be done so in the worst cases of obesity, where someone is behind the eight ball and they just can't get it right. Here's my problem with GLP-1s. I had this discussion with the doctor who thinks that GLP-1s are a miracle drug. And there's something miraculous that it does do. But here's the problem. Your problem with obesity, my problem with being a little bit overweight, is going to be that you have insulin resistance in your liver. What this does is what GLP-1s do, and I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take medical advice here, but as I read the science behind this, it takes care of what your liver's not taking care of because it's insulin resistant. Okay, if that gets your weight down temporarily, great, that's fine. But if you don't change your diet, you don't exercise more, and you don't supplement yourself where you may be lacking, you're just going to go right back to the same problem after you're done with this drug.
Yeah, it has to be. By the way,
pharmaceutical companies know this because every one of their advertisements are people taking GLP-1s who are still overweight. Mm-hmm. Like they don't characterize this as now you're trim and buff. They don't do that. Why? because they know it doesn't solve the problem in the long run. So, yes, I'm all for the reduction in costs, and I think that that's helpful. The only way to fix this problem is to repeal Obamacare, to have incentives, to allow incentives in healthcare for people to have lower rates of insurance if they have good behaviors that can be trackable, and then to change the food. Much of what the Trump agenda is and the Maha agenda is working in that regard. But until you get rid of Obamacare and change the incentive system that we've built by a crappy program that threw away any responsibility on the individual for their health, we're not going to fix the problem in the long run. GLP-1s are great, but they're not going to solve everything.
Yeah, they're not a miracle drug. They're a supplement. You know, no one's going to take a GLP-1 that's obese and sit on the couch and lose all their weight. Well, Gavin Newsom was over in Brazil, right? Brazil, I think this was yesterday, wasn't it? And he was giving a speech, and listen to what he had to say.
But right now we have an invasive species in the vernacular of climate by the name of Donald Trump. And we've got to call that out, I humbly submit. And at this moment, I'm just trying to pull those weeds. So when we get to the other side, and we will, but it's been hard ever since we went down an escalator in 2015, a decade. And
an invasive species by the name of Trump.
He thinks you're a weed, people. He thinks unless you grab on to his radical, stupid idea. I mean, the climate science agenda has never been about science, ever, ever, ever. Why do we know that? Because in the 1970s, it was about global cooling caused by man. Then it became massive global warming. Then it just became about climate change. I mean, there's never been any solid science. Anthropogenic global warming, which meaning man-caused, it is minimal at best. The only thing that we need to be doing here is just, let's just be clean. That's fine. Figure out a way to take care of the environment. But climate, on the basis of climate change, it is a farce. They want government control over your life. His state is a failure, mostly because of the pro-climate agenda there, and many other factors, obviously, as well. It's just amazing. But yes, he thinks you're a weed, people. I want you to remember, Gavin Newsom is a politician who thinks you're a weed that needs to be plucked out if you don't follow what he says. That's what Democrats are about. They're not an American party. They don't believe in individual liberty. They don't believe in the Constitution. They believe in controlling your life to meet whatever agenda they have. One, if it were an important thing that government tried to do, government would still fail at it. But two, most of the things that they want to do are not things that are a problem to begin with. They're just made up problems to help them maintain power.
Yeah, he should be over in California fixing California's problems, not over in Brazil talking about Trump. But who knows? We'll be right back after this short break.
Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. Worldviewtalk.com or 1-866-738-3224.
All right, welcome back from the break. Another clip that's going kind of viral coming out of Brazil with Gavin Newsom is him talking about the effects of climate change on California and blaming it for the Palisades fire. Here we go.
Home values will start to decline. You're seeing it across the spectrum right now, in my state included, which is one of the most blessed and cursed states as it relates to climate. We're on the tip of the spear of climate change, simultaneous droughts and simultaneous floods. The hots are getting a lot hotter, the dries drier. You saw one of the most devastating wildfires in American history in the middle of winter in Los Angeles in January. 100-mile-an-hour winds attached to fire. And as we rebuild, the number one concern people have, how do I get my home insured? And how do you get a developer to develop a home that can't get a mortgage, which requires home insurance? So from across the spectrum, from financial risk to the issue of cost of living, which is universal, to global competitiveness, this is a no-brainer. As I say, what Trump is doing is unprecedented in American history.
All right, Jim. So did climate change start the fires, or did the guy they arrested for starting the fires start the fires?
There's so much. Yeah, the guy who started the fire. There's so much absurd about this. What's unprecedented is the climate agenda. It's unprecedented in human history. It is the biggest fake news that's ever been foisted upon human beings. And I'm saying that in light of many dictators throughout history who did harm to their people and so forth. This is an incredibly harmful thing. First of all, so no, it's not. It is unprecedented what he thinks, not the other way around. Secondly, everything he mentioned is absolutely either his fault or something that's natural and that's been known naturally to occur forever. So, for example, the problems with home insurance, that's entirely a government problem. If you've got a problem getting home insurance, that's probably a problem with your government. The only places where that is a problem that's uncontrollable are places like Florida that has hurricanes. But again, this might be a government problem too with regulation. So anyway, that's a government problem. But I will say this, to say 100-mile-per-hour winds caused by climate change did this, the Santa Ana winds that stirred up that fire have been known about for centuries now, literally centuries, for every bit of our country's history. And people first went over to California as far back as the 18th century from Europe. You had Spanish over in that area. They were in the Los Angeles area. They knew about these winds then too. It's never changed. Everything is a lie with Gavin Newsom. He is the biggest liar that there ever was in American politics, and there have been a lot of them. In fact, most of them. So no, this is a problem either of government or of things in climate that you can deal with, that if they had just gone all the way with that fire and put it out, because remember, it's not just the guy that started the fire. It's the firemen were called off of it, even though they said it was smoldering, and then it came back up again. Government causes almost every problem in your life. Certainly every societal problem is likely got a component in government one way or the other. The only other component is the general moral culture that you have, which requires the advancement of the gospel. So it is so absurd to watch these politicians take advantage of people this way with these absurd lies. Anyway, I've ranted.
Yeah. And this guy is going to be, he's most likely going to be the Democrat nominee for president in 2028, don't you think?
It's really hard to tell this far out, but right now, yeah, he's the guy that's the front runner. Yeah. I've seen many presidential elections where you had a seemingly clear front runner this far out, and they weren't even in the mix at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I don't see how he could win when you just look at California. But
well, that's where the argument is. The question is, will Republicans oppose him? I have some confidence in this because the likely, and again, we don't know for sure, but the likely people at the top of the ticket are going to be people like J.D. Vance, which is the most likely right now, or Marco Rubio, or maybe even Ron DeSantis. And they're pretty effective at countering these problems. Ron DeSantis swept the floor with Gavin Newsom in a debate they had a year and a half or so ago. So I think Gavin Newsom is an absurd human being. And if you put him in a debate, which you watch, because he'll try to avoid it, you put him in a debate, he loses, because he's not really a very smart guy at all.
Yeah, he's just got all those hand signals. You seeing that one?
Yeah. Did you see that one that's going around right now?
Oh,
I'll have to share it with you. I didn't share it with you. I should do so.
They were bad in that clip we just played. It's weird stuff.
I'll send this to you, and you can decide if we want to put it on, because it's just hilarious.
All right. Well, in the meantime, while you send it, Trump, after he signed the bill to reopen the government, had some words to say last night. Here we go.
United States in an attempt to extort American taxpayers for hundreds of billions of dollars for illegal aliens and people that came into our country illegally, from gangs, from prisons, from mental institutions. They wanted to pay them $1.5 trillion, which would have really hurt our healthcare businesses and our recipients at levels never seen before. Today, we're sending a clear message that we will never give in to extortion. They tried to extort, the Democrats tried to extort our country. In just a moment, I'll sign a bill exactly like we asked Democrats to send us all along, many days ago. This cost the country $1.5 trillion, this little excursion that they took us on. The United States.
So it cost $1.5 trillion is what they were. That's what they were pushing for, right?
Yeah. Like the scam is that the Obamacare subsidies were even put into place at all. Remember, they were done in response to COVID. But really, what they were responding to with $1.5 trillion of these subsidies is that what they're really focusing on was the fact that they kicked people out of their jobs, supposedly to help them not get sick with COVID. You still had about 1 million or so people die. And we don't even know that all of them died of COVID. So anyway, again, government, that's the problem. And Obamacare is a problem. We've got to get rid of Obamacare. I mean, if they're going to get rid of the filibuster, should be one of the number one things they do. Get rid of Obamacare, pass Andy Biggs's bill, which he introduced earlier in January, that would eliminate every aspect of Obamacare's legislation and go back to where we were before Obamacare, which may not have been perfect, but it certainly wasn't as bad as this.
Yeah. Well, I got the clip you sent me, and I think we should play it.
Okay.
Here we go. These are the guys over at Valuetainment with the PBD podcast. Here we go.
Governor Newsom, wildfires have destroyed millions of acres of the state, displaced countless amounts of family. Do you take responsibility for any of this, and is there anything more you think you could have done?
Not really. I think these fires were very devastating. I think the full scope of what actually has happened, we're not there yet. Okay, these people's houses are just destroyed. People are suffering. People are sad. But we're Californians. We're going to push through. And where we're going, the vision is 10 times bigger than anybody else can even imagine.
Former President Trump has recently criticized your leadership, saying that you failed California. What's your response to him, and what does the future of California look like?
To be honest with you, I try to block that rhetoric, because the words that come out of his mouth, all the words out of his lips, they don't mean anything to me. He needs to use these more, because the future of California is bright. It's so bright. When you really try to look at it, really, really look at how bright it is, you're going to need shades to live in California 24 hours a day.
Critics are saying that you're all hand gestures and no action. What's your response to that?
I think people are wrong. Okay, they need to wake up. I speak with passion. I speak with fire, no pun intended. And I feel if I use my hands a lot, people won't be focused on the lies that are coming out of my mouth, because I lie a lot. So I want to distract them with my hands.
Interesting. Wait.
What?
Where'd my gum go?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. Would you look at that? You know what? This gum is just like California. It's sticky, it's resilient, and it'll bounce back.
You're a scumbag.
Thank you.
That was great.
That is fantastic. I mean, the best something's only humor when it is connected pretty closely to reality, and that gets kind of close.
Yeah, his hand gestures are something.
Slapping his face. Oh man.
Oh my word.
In his mouth. Oh, it was actually really good.
Well, oh man. Well, I got another clip here. I didn't see this. I guess I missed this one. I guess during the votes last night, the Democrats were screaming no at their fellow Democrats who were voting with the Republicans to reopen the government. Let's listen to this. Man, for them out there screaming about the shutdown and being the Republicans' fault, they really didn't want the government to open back up, did they?
No, it kind of proves the point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Listen, Democrats are for destruction, but not destruction of government. They want to prop it up. They want it to stay strong. They want it to continue on as it is. They don't care about that and where we're at. They love power. Republicans should be, and Donald Trump definitely is, about destroying these artifices of government that cause people problems and allow people to live their lives. It's why I am 100% behind the Trump agenda. I might have this or that tweaky little disagreement. I'm going to take every one of those errors if we could just actually have implemented what Donald Trump ran for. That's the challenge for Republicans going into November.
Yep. And that's where we're at. I mean, the Republicans are wanting what they voted for. They're wanting persecutions. They want prices to come down. And I think the White House is realizing that. And that's why I think they're kind of shifting the discussions they're having and talking about Trump going around to talk about affordability, because affordability is the biggest issue right now with most voters, I think.
Well, by the way, you think I get to independent voters too. That I will say this, in the 1990s, the concept of the independent voter was what Democrat or Republican voters vote in an independent fashion. In this day and age, and most people in Gen Z and even some millennials don't realize, you have people who are not registered with any party, even where there is party registration. And that number has grown precipitously. I mean, in 2005, when I went to Colorado, and I did a lot of political work in Colorado, working for Focus on the Family and otherwise, you had maybe 15, possibly 20% of all voters who did not register with the party. That number now in Colorado, I believe it's between 40 and 45%. Why is that? Because people are fed up with politicians. Mm-hmm. They're tired of it. They don't want to be connected to a party. And the reason for that is their frustration. Those are the people you got to get to. You have to actually grab the hope and the imagination of the American people. Donald Trump did that leading into November. Pick that back up. Let's go with that. And, I made my recommendations earlier. If you just grab onto that, I think you can have a big victory in November. But right now, that is not set in stone in any fashion.
Yep. Well, we're all out of time for tonight. We'll be back next week. Till then, take care.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, the Chinese Communist Party purchased a trailer park next to one of America's most sensitive and strategic air bases. Nobody in our government did a thing to stop it. And then there's the penny. It's been around since at least 1793, but it is no more. We'll explain why the U.S. government stopped minting the penny. Israel and the United States on Tuesday reached a significant compromise, agreeing on the deportation of some 200 Hamas terrorists. The Olympics is now considering banning gender-confused men from women's Olympic sports. And new documents released by Senator Rand Paul offer a potential smoking gun regarding American complicity in the creation of COVID-19. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local